Hi, Michael Force here again with Base, and this is lesson number 4. I'm going to show you how to really architect a really solid website, social media presence, your own personal brand, really get you out of the gate so people are, attracted to, what it is you're offering and the value you're offering, whether it be you're promoting affiliate links or just building your own brand. You have your own product, services, passions, ideas, interests. You can also utilize all that skill set to build your digital altitude business as well. So I'm going to handhold you here through lesson 4 on exactly how to do that. All the tools that I've used is all over the years, what's working now, what's not working, what converts the highest, how to set up your profiles, how to set up your pages, how to set up your blog, different navigation structures and footers and all that kind of stuff to make sure that you are really converting really high and people are attracted to whatever it is that you're offering. So let's jump into lesson 4 and I'll see you on the inside. Hello, Michael Force here. Welcome to lesson number 4 of the Base Digital Business Mastery course here. We're going to talk about how to architect a beautiful website, blog, and social presence here. Architecting a strong website, while some of you may have already gone ahead and created this portion of your business, I believe today's lesson will help you find the critical points of improvement and will help your business online presence. I want to open with this quote: just because your website is beautiful doesn't mean it's good. Many of today's business articles will teach entrepreneurs to outsource. What we'll be discussing here today, in my opinion, that is, in today's economies, entrepreneurs don't have to know how to do everything themselves, but they must understand everything. Today, it's my goal to provide you the wisdom required to make brilliant decisions regarding a website for your business. It's the knowledge that has allowed me to remain a cut above the rest, and I believe it will be for you too as well. If you use the internet long enough, you'll know how quickly website practices, design styles, and the conversion strategies change. Therefore, this module will be less about the tools and current practices, but rather about the timeless principles of strong design, customer persuasion, information transferring, the influence of aesthetics, and user progression. At the core, web design is about conveying information, simplicity, and allure. Your website provides potential customers with a first impression of your business. While no doubt understand how important first impressions are when meeting people, you may be surprised to learn when it comes to your website, first impressions are made extremely quick as well, and are hugely influenced by design and headlines and have far-reaching implications for your business. A recent study found that it takes users a mere 1/20th of a second to judge the visual appeal of your website. This suggests that we as business owners have about 50 milliseconds to make a good first impression. Based on the results of another study, there are 2 factors that lead users to reject or mistrust websites. The first was design-related complaints, which accounted for 94% of the feedback. The second was actual content, which accounts for only 6% of the feedback. If you want users to stick around after a hyper-speed first impression to read your content, first make sure it's presented in an appealing manner. Let's go beyond the millisecond. Let's say you've gotten them in the front door. You must convey information. The first minute a user spends on your site is effectively fabricating what we call true impression. During this time, your website sets the expectation for your business and has a strong impact on user satisfaction and the probability of a visitor becoming a customer. Studies have found that the first impressions boost customer brand perceptions even long after the first experiences with the company's website. Similarly, research by 2 economists illustrated how first impressions can last for even years by examining the impact of player draft order in the NBA. Sports fans take note of that. Results showed that teams granted more playing time to their most highly drafted players and retained them longer, even after poor results from the player's encore performance. This means that players' initial perceived value still influenced their perceived value up to 5 years later, regardless of actual value like statistical performance or injuries. Thus, your business's initial perceived value based off your website could have an effect on customers for years to come. They will either remember you as the company with the ugly products or the business with the beautiful website and great content. While the first will likely never return, the second customer will and hopefully make a purchase. In another study on eye tracking, an infrared camera was used to track the eye movements of participants viewing screenshots of a series of websites on a similar topic. This study showed students spent nearly equal amounts of time viewing the logo, main navigation, and search box, followed closely by social networking links and the main image. All of these items were ahead of the site's written content. This means your first micro-impression is made up of the following: logo, navigation, social proof, and any main images. What this teaches us is that your site's navigation should be easy to find and familiar to use. This is not the place where you want to get creative. Where should your contact page be? On the far right, just like 96% of other websites in the world. Images should be selected both for quality and content. A stunning photo that fails to communicate your product, service, or brand is a bad photo that hits the messaging perfectly but is blurry or of poor resolution. The inclusion of social media links or follower accounts is increasingly becoming more important to determine instant credibility. Lastly, while some have a tendency to include every trick in the book, the best websites are clean and simple. Users respond favorably to that. Countless web searchers have proven that users strongly prefer website designs that look both simple and familiar. One study goes on and says that users found websites that were too complex to be less beautiful and sites that were too unfamiliar to be ugly. When working with your designer or choosing a template, keep it simple and straightforward. What I really want you to take home is this: the importance of great web design can't be overstated. A well-designed website evokes an instantaneous emotional response from potential customers. It drives them to read more of the content you've written, provides the authority needed to trigger a sale, and leaves a long-lasting impression of your business in the minds of new visitors. Here's your first task. Rate your website's cleanliness, familiarity, and simplicity on a scale of 1 to 10. Second, rate your logo, navigation, and social account placement and main images on the quality to ensure they meet standards that your users are expecting. This exercise is available in the study guide. I'll follow up on this task with a critical question. If someone landed on your website for 5 seconds, would they be able to tell what your company does? And how do you do it differently than anyone else? If you can solve the problem, you'll put yourself far ahead of the rest. So let's dive into some of the foundational components of a great website. We'll begin with usability, what's more formally known in the web world as UI, or user interface. On the web, usability is a necessary condition for survival. If a website is difficult to use, people leave. If the homepage fails to clearly state what the company offers and what users can do on the site, people leave. If users get lost on a website, they leave. If a website's information is hard to read or doesn't answer key questions, they leave. Note a pattern? There's no such thing as a user reading a website manual or otherwise spending much time trying to figure out a crappy interface. There are plenty of other websites available, so leaving is the first line of defense when users encounter a difficulty. For example, the first law of e-commerce is that if a user cannot find the product, they cannot buy it either. Or, for content sites, if the type is too small or the font is abnormal, reading becomes a struggle and again they leave. Past practices call for spending about 10% of the design project's budget on usability. On average, this will more than double a website's desired quality measures. I mean, think of doubling sales, doubling the number of registered users or customers' leads, doubling comments, doubling likes, followers, or emails, or doubling any other desired goal for your startup. Building and usability plays a role in each stage in the design process. Here are a few quick and easy steps I recommend all entrepreneurs to take to finalizing their website. Number 1, before starting a new design, test the old design to identify the good parts that should be kept or emphasized and the bad parts that users have trouble with. Number 2, test your competitor's design to get cheap data on a range of alternative interfaces that have similar features to your own. Number 3, conduct a study guide by going to a coffee shop and asking a few people to visit your website for a minute. Without any guidance afterward, ask them questions like, what do we do? What do we sell? And how does our product work? Or what confused you? Number 4, make paper prototypes of one or more of the design ideas and test them before you spend significant time and money developing your website. The more time and money you invest in the concept phase, the stronger your site will be. Number 5, Refine the concepts that test best when multiple, gradually moving from paper prototyping to high-level digital wire frames that run on the computer. Test each iteration, as these small tweaks can mean the difference between making 50 or 500,000 in your first year of business. Number 6, once you decide on to implement the first design, test it again. Several usability problems always creep in during the implementation process. Next, let's discuss the UI's counterpart, UX, which stands for user experience. The first requirement for any explanatory user experience is to meet the exact needs of the customer without confusion or frustration. Second comes simplicity and elegance that produce websites that are a joy to use. As I said before, you should always test before you develop. Similar to UI, find some folks that are disconnected from the design process, but also fit into the customer demographic. Ask them a series of questions, but this time have them spend 2 or 3 minutes. Ask them what they liked or disliked. Ask them what one thing they would do or change or improve to your website. And remember, just because one person says the article headline needs to be bigger doesn't mean it's true. You're looking for patterns. This is why having 10 to 20 people look at your site is best. For example, people ask my opinion all the time about their website. While my opinion may be more valuable than some, it will never be more valuable than a group of real users in your customer demographic. Also, if you're shy and asking people to your website sounds like a nightmare, then there are companies who offer live testing, video recordings, click heat maps, and user feedback surveys are available. Just Google them. Remember, testing has 10 times the impact if you discover immediate design change early, and it's 100 times cheaper to make the change now. The experience from both fields is clear. Early is much better than late. Here are 7 user experience mentalities entrepreneurs should keep in mind while developing their website. Number 1, the visibility of process status. The website should always keep users informed about what's going on, where they're at, and how to get back and what to do next. Number 2, match their world. The website should speak to the user's language with words, phrases, and concepts familiar to the user rather than the system-oriented terms. Follow common styles and structures, making information appear in a natural and logical order. Number 3, user control and freedom. Users often change system functions by mistake and will need a clearly marked emergency exit to leave the unwanted state without having to go through an extended dialogue. Support, undo, redo, and back functions. Number 4, consistency is king. Users should not have to wonder whether different words, situations, or actions mean the same thing. This means use the same button color for actions. Cite why. Use the headline fonts only for headlines. If your business has unique terms to the community, similar to how DA calls their students climber or hiker, you may want to include a glossary and a name to be consistent with the term usage. Number 5, aesthetic and minimalist design. Websites should never contain information which is irrelevant or rarely needed. Every extra unit of information on the website completes with relevant units of information and diminishes their visibility. It reminds me of one of my favorite books. A designer knows he has achieved perfection, not when there is nothing left to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. Number 6, help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. Error messages like 4 of 4 pages should be expressed in plain language, no codes. Here you should precisely indicate the problem and constructively suggest a solution. For example, your credit card number was inputted correctly. Please check one more time. Or your zip code doesn't match the credit card on file. Or the blog you're looking at isn't here anymore. Here's a list of our top 10 articles this year. Number 7, help and documentation. Even though it's better for the system can be used without documentation, it may be necessary to provide help and documentation. This can be as simple as an easy-to-use frequently asked questions page or an easy-to-see phone number. Regardless, all of the information should be easy to search, focus on the user's task, list concrete steps to be carried out, maybe even with a video, and keep the solution as simple as possible. This is your second task. List 5 ways that you can increase your user experience, the estimated costs of these changes, and the dates that you'll have them completed. Let's move past website planning and look into small website improvements that can make an impact on UI and UX. Here are a few optimizations you may want to consider for your website.
Number 1, improving non-scannable text. Non-scannable text is any group of words larger than 1 or 2 sentences. It requires the user to read rather than scan. But a wall of text is deadly for an interactive experience. It's intimidating, boring, and painful to read. Remember, write for online, not for print. To draw users into text and support scannability, use well-documented formatting like this. Short summaries, subheads, pull quotes, bulleted points, highlighted keywords, short paragraphs, and simple language. Critical question: how easy is it to read your website's content? Is it easy to navigate? Is the font and line spacing easy for readers' eyes? Number 2, remove anything that looks like an ad. Selective attention is very powerful, and web users have learned to stop paying attention to any ads that get in the way of their goal-driven navigation. Unfortunately, users also ignore legitimate design elements on your websites just because they look very similar to advertising. Therefore, it's best to avoid any design elements that look like advertisements. For example, banner blindness that users never fixate their eyes on anything that looks like a banner ad due to the shape or position on the page. If your email capture and sidebar looks like a banner ad, you might want to find a clever way to differentiate. Animation avoidance makes users ignore areas with blinking or flashing text or other aggressive animations. In my opinion, if anything blinks on your website, remove it. Pop-up purchase means that users close pop-up windows before they even rendered, sometimes with great viciousness. It's also like a sort of hatred towards spam marketers. While pop-ups work well for capturing emails, just be creative on how you execute these methods. Critical question: do you have graphic elements on your website that could be perceived as spamming or an advertisement? Number 3, information. Users are highly goal-driven on the web. They visit sites because there is something they want to accomplish, maybe even buy your product. The ultimate failure of your website is to provide the information users are looking for. Sometimes the simple answer is not there, and you lose the sale because of it. Without clear information, like shipping costs, size charts, or cancellation policies, users have to assume that your product or service doesn't meet their needs and they move on. Other times, these important specifics are buried under a thick layer of market tease or are so small that they never even noticed. Since users don't have time to read everything, such as hidden information might also as well not be there. The worst example, if not answering users' questions to avoid listing the price on products or services. Not B2C e-commerce sites would make this mistake, but it's more along the line of Group B when enterprise solutions are presented, so that they can't whether it's seen by 100 people or 100,000 people. Price is the most specific reason the consumers, and not providing it clearly makes people feel lost and reduces their understanding of the product. This doesn't mean just as a product page either. This means your category page, previews, thumbnails, and more. By doing this, it lets users differentiate among products and click through the most relevant ones. To take it further, make sure you clearly outline what you get for the price, time it will be delivered, and when. It's rare for a user to complain that there's too much information prior to the purchase, especially if the purchase is expensive. Keep it clean and organized. You may want to consider sharing the design process, artist website, top 5 questions for customers like them, where the product was made, how fast it ships, where they can get help, the answers to their questions prior to a consumer's buying, prior to a purchase, and if you leave them without the fear of unknown like to lock down the sale. Critical question: what information could you add to your website to increase important information for your customer? Number 4, list and order serial position effect. Whether your navigation or any other, put the important stuff at the beginning and the end. The reader's attention and retention are lowest in the middle. All visitors can scan the page. The first and last sentence are more likely to stay in the short-term memory. Also, don't include too many items. Short-term memory can only hold about 7 items. If the navigation includes more than 7 items, break it into smaller groups. Number 5. Marketing copy and loss aversion. There are not efficient cost-benefit items. We tend to overvalue losses and undervalue gains. In other words, losses are more painful than gains are pleasurable. It looks like something like this. The aversion to losses can be useful for web design and copying. Here are some tips for writing copy with loss aversion in mind. Emphasize the cost of not using your product or service. For example, if you don't sign up for Digital Altitude, you'll prolong your dream of working for yourself, or you'll have to continue working for someone else. Next, group costs together. List benefits separately and also be sure that the benefits far outweigh the cost. Next, emphasize immediate gains. Here, this is why you can graduate immediately upon and know that they've made a purchase progress and progress to using our product. Lastly, create urgency and limited time offers. If the product is scarce, say so. We use a counter clock to push users to make a decision quickly before it's too late. Since we close enrollment over the weekend and sometimes actually longer, it can help push customers over the edge. Critical question. What 3 things can you do to increase the value perception of your website? Number 6, social proof and supportive content, herd behavior. People tend to do what other people are doing. Evidence that others select your business may choosing your company seem like a great choice. The goal is to make any decision other than your company seem outside the norm. I recommend adding supportive messages and testimonials from clients of reviews from customers, social media widgets showing the size of your following, endorsements from relevant influencers as seen in logos of media where your company has been mentioned, trust seals including associations and memberships, security certificates and awards, or even live metrics like total products sold or even the number of reads an article has. These elements include the initial value of judgment on your website and of your company. Another critical question, where can you increase credibility on your website? Who can you ask for an endorsement? Number 7, word choice and readability. Labels in navigation and copy in pages must be easy for visitors to understand. Use common words that visitors expect. Avoid long sentences. Don't use jargon. Long sentences and fancy words force the temporal lobe of our brains to work harder, which is not good. Copy that works well for users works well for everybody. It's not about dumbing down. It's about choosing a simpler language that everyone can understand. Remember, even PhDs prefer to read at the 8th grade level. A big word might make you sound smart, but it risks making the reader feel dumb. A reader who doubts himself is unlikely to take action, and you want to inspire action, right? Be simple and accessible in your writing. Critical question, where can you simplify your words on your website? Does your About page sound too professional? Is your story page unrelatable? Are your articles too complex? Number 8, colors and the von Restov effect. In the 1930s, a German scientist, Hedwig van Restov, discovered that when we get a list of 10 items, people remembered items if they are colored different from the others. This is because the occipital lobe of the brain is sensitive to visual differences or pattern interruptions. Webmaker Ross Jupiter conducted experiments that showed how standout colors weren't just remembered more, you're actually clicking 60% more. Think an action color for all of your needs, buttons, and rollover needs. Think in a color that's distinct from the brand colors, and you use the action color nowhere else but on the clickable items. It's small, intentional changes like that can create change immediately to the bottom line. Critical question. Are all of your links, including your buttons and text links, a bright color that's all the same, different from your brand colors? In color click studies, orange and yellow remain to be the highest performers. Now this is your final task. Find 3 to 5 of the best websites in the industry as you. Note at least one item from each you can adopt to add to your website. Then look at 3 to 5 of the best sites outside of your industry. Note at least one item from each one you can adopt and add to your website. I know all this information can seem a bit overwhelming. You may be thinking, wow, I didn't do any of this when I was building my website. Maybe you're thinking, I don't have the time or money to make my website this way. Let me give you a little peace of mind. Building a great website takes time. It's a living process and you'll never ever finish. I'm going to start with our website, or with a website that needs to make money. The difference is made when an entrepreneur knows that he needs to be optimized and he has a plan to make those improvements. Now this concludes our lesson instruction. Let's go over what we learned now. Number 1, how users interact with websites. Number 2, where the website's first impression is highly influenced by design. Number 3, after the first impression, content and UX become the focus. Number 4, we learned the difference between UI and UX. Number 5, we learned the 7 mentalities of effective UX design. Number 6, we cover the 8 critical optimizations for your website. You have 3 important tasks from this lesson. Number 1, rate your website's cleanliness, familiarity, and simplicity on a scale from 1 to 10. Second, rate if your logo, navigation, social account placement, and main pages meet the quality standards your users are expecting. This exercise is available below. Number 2, list 5 ways that you can increase your user experience, the estimated costs of these changes, and dates that you'll have them completed. And number 3, find the 3 of the 5 best websites in the company industry as you. Note at least 1 item for each that you can adopt onto your website. Then look at 3 to 5 of the best websites outside of your industry. Note at least 1 of the items that you can add to your site as well. You have 8 critical questions to answer in this lesson. Next, to finish this lesson, you'll want to read this month's short PDF pack, then complete your study guide below and checklist. This shouldn't take you longer than 90 minutes. Also, pick up a copy of this module's recommended reading, audio and or print before moving on to the next. Lastly, the next module is all about launching your company to the world, the creative plan that generates buzz, stickiness, and sales. Here's a sneak peek in what we're going to be learning. Number 1, how to activate anticipation. Number 2, the power of sequence, marketing prior to launch. Number 3, how to generate an unforgettable first impression. And number 4, critical triggers for keeping the momentum moving. Thanks for joining me today, and thanks for your passion to learn. It's people like you who create the life they really want. You are on the right path. Just keep hiking up the mountain. I'll leave you with this quote. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. I'll see you in the next session. Take care.